Can England win the World Cup? That's the big question that no one has the answer to. But in this World Cup preview show, we can come close. Let's break it down. The placings in the previous two major international tournaments would suggest that in the next bout of progress we'd see the Three Lions lift the prestigious trophy this year. A positive semi-final finish in the 2018 World Cup and a narrow loss in the Euro 2020 final see England slapped with an ever high expectation in this year's World Cup. Akin to the last group, there is a lot of potential with the side, but at the same time the tactics and selections from Gareth Southgate are heavily criticised. So just as the last World Cup, there are lower levels of expectations, something which only seemed to benefit them in Russia. With that said, here is how we anticipate the Three Lions to line up in Qatar. But just before we do that, a quick announcement. Ahead of the much anticipated FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022, TotalFootballAnalysis.com, the home of tactical analysis, announces a 50% discount special offer for all new members. Every single World Cup match will be covered, and our analysts will help you to understand what's really happening on the pitch in Qatar. You can redeem your 50% discount using code WorldCup50, that's WorldCup50, at TotalFootballAnalysis.com/subscribe. Back to the video. It goes without saying that England's squad is filled to the brim with young talent. You have a host of players in the starting 11 who are yet to enter their peak years, despite their current level of impact. The likes of Declan Rice, Mason Mount, Fikayo Tomori, Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham could all put a case forward for a starting role in Southgate's preferred side. On the other end of the spectrum, Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier and Jordan Henderson make up the only likely squad options who are perhaps in, if not beyond, their best years. And then we come to players truly in the peak years of their careers, as highlighted by the lighter pink section of our age profile viz. There are certainly some key players in this stage of their respective careers. Centre-backs Harry Maguire, John Stones, Eric Dyer and Connor Cody all fall into this category, as do potential starters Jack Grealish, Raheem Sterling, Luke Shaw and finally captain and respective talisman Harry Kane. Overall, the squad is certainly one of the younger sides in regards to a leading football nation, with the players in the peak years of their careers still having plenty of football left in them. So there's hope for the future tournaments with this same core. As for formation, there's still some debate as to how Southgate will line his players up and what system he will choose. Most recently, it appears that the boss is preferring a 3-4-2-1 formation, and it seems highly likely that the midfield will involve Rice in a double pivot partnership with either Jude Bellingham or Jordan Henderson. It's likely that Henderson would warrant a start in midfield, given his experience and leadership qualities, on top of consistently strong performances for England in recent years. Although Bellingham's progression arguably places him as England's most natural number 8, and with Rice best as a 6, the 19-year-old would give England the most balanced midfield option. Ahead of this midfield pivot, England will operate with a front 3. The only certainty is that Harry Kane will start as the centre forward, but the likes of Tammy Abraham, Ivan Toney and Callum Wilson deserve credit for their excellent performances in their respective sides, with all three capable of posing threat straight from the bench. At the back, Maguire, Tomori and Walker seem set to start in a back 3, with Trent Alexander-Arnold at right wing because of the missing competition from injured Reece James. Although the Chelsea man does have hopes of returning from injury ahead of the World Cup, so with that, we'll have to see. As for the left wing back position, in wake of Chilwell's unfortunate Champions League injury blow, expect the Manchester United man Luke Shaw to stake his claim at left back once more. And whilst that is the most likely case, it's worth noting that the wing back pairing and overall formation may well change based on the opponent. Against an opponent sitting deep in a low block, we could well see Southgate opt for Alexander-Arnold or Trippier, giving these wing-backs license to pepper the box with crosses. Finally, in goal, Nick Pope had the chance to prove himself in the last round of matches, but couldn't really convince, As such, Aaron Ramsdale serves as a great option for England, with his current form for Arsenal potentially edging him in the battle between the sticks with Everton's Jordan Pickford. And although it's a slightly audacious shout, we could see him start at the expense of Pickford, Pope and Henderson respectively. In the attacking phase, we can see that England are a patient possession side, playing with little directness and therefore unsurprisingly with a low amount of final third passes per 100 passes. On top of this, Southgate's side are far from partial to a long ball, yet despite this lack of directness, they're an efficient attacking side. We can see how highly they rank for goals per match, XG per match, and touches in the penalty area per match through this visual. In terms of how they'll set up in possession, we have to acknowledge that Southgate has flitted between using a back three and a back four. Although with Declan Rice growing as a ball player and not just a defensive midfielder who can break up the play, the West Ham skipper provides Southgate with a certain flexibility that bolsters England in the build-up phase. From this shape, Rice will sit deep during build-up play, allowing the wing-backs to push on and give England an extra dimension in their bid for numerical superiority in the final third. We can see this pattern in a game situation from the match against Germany, as we see Rice dropping deep between the two centre-backs in order to allow the wing-backs to push forward whilst also creating lots of central space. It's well known that Kane likes to drop into the midfield at any given time, so leaving two in the midfield during build-up provides more space for him to do this. Overall, this action is vital in creating plenty of different passing angles from the back three and wing backs in their bid to find the mercurial frontman. The England captain's undeniable ability as a goal scorer ensures that he's always marked closely by the opposition defence, and his sheer presence lures defenders in and sees him create space for players in the wider positions. In this image we can see how he remains central as England build up their game. He drops deep to collect the ball and switches the side of play. With England operating as a possession-heavy side, they naturally spend less time in the defensive phases than most other teams will. With this style of play, England will most commonly face sides looking to beat them with quick and direct counterattacks. Cutting these attacks out at source is vital, and we can see that England's ability to make recoveries in the final third is strong, suggesting that they press well and regain position when the opponent has the ball inside their own third. In terms of just general solidity in the defence, it's encouraging for England fans to see their aerial duel win percentage and respective defensive duel win percentage rank so highly as well. This tournament, look for England's midfield to get particularly compact in an effort to protect the centre of the pitch. With a double pivot, they'll eliminate space and still provide pressure when the ball is in and around the half space. With this, we can also see how one winger tucks inside, with the other winger and the centre forward preventing the easy passage of pressure for the opposition side. This compactness remains in the press as well. England will keep their front three narrow, pressing the ball and showing the opponent wide. They're supported by the central midfielders pushing forward to ensure that if the front three are beaten, there won't be any space in the centre of the pitch behind them. Rice's ability in particular to cover ground well and break up play so effectively gives England's midfield and front three more freedom to press aggressively. Should they be beaten, as they are in this image, Rice stops the forward from his deep position to intercept the ball. And now on to transitions. When we talk about transition, we naturally look at what teams do as they transition from defence into attack, and then vice versa from attack into defence. Starting with transition to attack, England will often look to keep possession and begin their patient build-up phase from the back. Kane can perform as a target man in transition, and England will look to target him throughout. With the pace of England's wide players a constant threat for the opposition, the likes of Foden and Sterling will look to run past Kane and latch onto the knockdown before continuing on the break. As for transition to defence, England counter-press well and use two basic structures to facilitate this. Firstly, if the ball is lost over a short distance, it will immediately be pressed by the player who gave up possession. The immediate pressure forces the opponent to move the ball quickly, perhaps before their teammates have transitioned into space to receive the ball and play out. As such, this can force a quick turnover or at least encourage the opponent to merely clear their line with a long ball forward. England also structure their counter-press during the possession phase. In advanced attacks, Southgate's side will have plenty of passing options in close proximity to the ball. This allows them to combine in tight spaces and advance possession, but it also sees them quickly swarm the ball upon losing it and overload the opposition. And now onto our key player. It goes without saying that Harry Kane is one of the best centre forwards in the world footballing landscape, and he'll be looking to perform as well as he did in the Euros last year. His game has moved on from just being an elite goal scorer in a move that's seen Kane become an outstanding provider on top of his continued goal scoring exploits. We can get a glimpse of this by seeing how highly he ranks for not only attacking and shooting statistics, but also passing and progression statistics. Firstly, in attack, he is in the upper echelons of the league for non-penalty goals per 90, XG per 90, headed goals per 90 and shots per 90. His lower ranking for XG per shot comes from his willingness to take on shots from longer distances. And his lower ranking for successful dribbles and touches in the box per 90 are likely down to his preference for quickly taking on opportunities. It goes without saying that he isn't a dribbler by trade and is far better playing quickly, whether that's taking a shot or moving the ball on with a pass. As for his passing statistics, it makes sense to see him rank so highly for smart passes per 90, as well as passes to the final third per 90. Kane is an outstanding passer of the ball, and with his fondness for dropping into deeper areas to receive possession, he'll often look for that long diagonal switch of play, which he does so effectively. Therefore, we see his average pass length rank so highly among his peers in the Premier League. So the question remains, can England win the World Cup? Well, despite their poor performances of recent, England can certainly win the World Cup and consequentially find themselves as one of the big favourites to win this year's competition. Together with France and Brazil, the Euro 2020 finalists will be an interesting team to watch, and you should really look out for them. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of criticism of Southgate in terms of player selection and playing style, but the individual quality of seasoned and talented players is outstanding and could be overriding. And with that, in the knockout phase, there's always going to be the opportunity to beat the so-called favourites. Anything less than a semi-final appearance would be seen as a disappointment, but anything more than that would also be seen as an overachievement. Southgate is still riding the wave of goodwill that the World Cup performance from 3 years ago and the Euro performance from last year has brought to him. But know this, in wake of any mistakes, there will certainly be more scrutiny surrounding the Englishman this time around. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a like to help us in our quest to conquer the YouTube algorithm. And don't forget to check out totalfootballanalysis.com for more esteemed football content for the thinking football fan. Other than that, we'll see you in the next one, and don't forget to get your hands on the World Cup Preview magazine, issue number 74. It's a masterpiece, do not miss out.